Welcome back. Now, one of the things that makes humans different from other species of mammals is that outer section of the brain that actually gives us the ability to compartmentalize and break down and segment reality and make sense of the world around us in a way so that we can understand that not everything is black and white, good or bad, them versus us. The thing is though, when the inner, more primitive parts of the brain are in control of us, that black and white thinking tends to take over much more than we often realize that it is. Now, have you ever known somebody that can be a certain way when you're dealing with them one-on-one, but as soon as they get into a group, they start acting completely differently? Because when we're in a group, then that more inner primitive herd instinct, the tribal instinct, that part of the brain tends to become a lot more powerful in most people. And so you get this sort of evolution of group politics, for lack of a better word. Now, the media, politicians, marketers, they utilize this principle a lot. They realize that by stimulating that inner part of the brain, they can get us to have stronger feelings about something, whatever it is that they want to spin or pitch. Marketers, the media is the worst example. The media try to spin everything so that everything is either good or it's bad. Either someone is this innocent victim, or they are the hero, or this is this breakthrough miracle cure that's going to solve everything, or it's the enemy. It's bad, it's a threat, it's doomsday, it's the end of the world, it's like every worst person's nightmare. Okay, and they do that because they know that gets us to feel a sense of connectedness. In this day and age, we often lack a sense of connectedness. So the media often realize that by triggering that tribal instinct in the brain, they get us to feel a sense of connectedness towards like-minded people so that we can feel opposition to people who think differently. So that we can essentially feel together and connected in knowing that we are the good guys and they are the bad guys. Anybody that thinks differently is out there in another tribe, and we are the good tribe, we are the good people here. That's what they do, and they do it intentionally. Now, human society has advanced a lot through the ages, but it hasn't advanced because of popular culture and Hollywood and the media. It's advanced because academics have been able to study things and try to separate human bias when they're researching things so that they can break down reality, break down information so they can view it with relative objectivity and rational thinking. But for the majority of people, that stuff is boring. You know, objectivity, rational thinking, that doesn't elicit a strong emotional or instinctive, impulsive feeling of being connected and versus the bad guys. And so just because as humans we have the ability to do that doesn't necessarily mean that we exercise that ability. That's up to us to decide. So how is this relevant to personal growth and personal change? Well, the answer to that is that fundamentally at the heart of every person's problem, you will find a recurring pattern. Okay, you get 100 people, 100 problems, hundreds of different variables, but one of the constants that you'll find in every person's situation is a common thread of what we call black or white thinking. So basically it looks like this. So if we stay over here in the light space, everything is perfect, everything is wonderful, there's no problems. Now, let's not talk about that more confrontational, difficult stuff. Let's look at our selfies, get the likes, everything is wonderful over here, okay, but once we start to look over here in the dark space, well, what happens is our mind gets flooded with what we call overwhelm. Because we've got all these suppressed feelings, we get this sudden flood of information, of reality that's just way too much to deal with. So you get this situation where everything is wonderful and everything is okay, or everything is terrible and it's beyond control, and we blow the problem up into this massive big thing that is totally beyond our control. It's totally overwhelming. Okay, and so to avoid the overwhelm of the dark space, we stay in the light space where it's nice and perfect and everything is wonderful. Okay, so fundamentally that black or white thinking is at the heart of every problem, and it's fundamentally what keeps us stuck as well. So let's get a bit more specific and look at how this black and white thinking can often manifest itself when it comes to personal change. So maybe this is something that you can associate with, okay? So have you ever been in a situation where you go, all right, on this day, when I get to this day, that's when I'm going to make the change. That's when I'm going to start the diet, or I'm going to join the gym on that day, or that's the day I'm going to have my last cigarette, or on that day, that's when I'm going to get started. Okay, and so then you get started and now you're on the wagon. Okay, so you're feeling pretty good. You're on the program, you're on the way, you're on whatever it is that you're on, but then you slip up. Okay, you fall off the wagon. And here's the thing I want you to keep in the back of your mind, okay? You are going to slip up. That slip up, it is inevitable. Okay, because this is how real and lasting progress looks. This is what it looks like. It looks like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back, etc., etc. Okay, so 2 steps forward, 1 step back, that's a net gain of 1 step. And when you put all the net gains of 1 step, when you put them all together, that's how you create the lasting change, then get where you want to be. But when black and white thinking gets in the way, then it all falls apart when you take that inevitable step back. And you think, oh, I've blown it now, oh, I've fallen off the wagon. Now I'm going to have to wait until next time when I muster up the motivation to get back on the program, back on the wagon. But for now, I'll just stay here off the wagon. Okay? Classic example of black and white thinking when it comes to making a change. There's just sort of something comforting, I guess, about being on this program or part of this thing. I guess the inner brain, the tribal instinct, just gets a bit of a buzz out of being on or in or part of this thing that's different from those people that are not part of it. A sense of togetherness, a sense of clarity, a sense of certainty. But here's the thing. In order to make the change you're looking for, inevitably, you are going to need to learn how to bounce back from that step forward over and over and over again. Because the black and white thinking is what keeps the fixed mindset in place. Remember in the previous lesson, those children who are praised for their intelligence, see, if they're praised for their intelligence, then in the second test where they were given the opportunity to take the harder challenge, well, their unconscious mind is thinking, hang on a second, if you're intelligent, if you take this harder challenge, and that's difficult, then you might fail. And if you fail, then you're going to lose that label of intelligent. And you are either intelligent or you're stupid. Either or. White or black, all or nothing. You see, it pops up in all sorts of situations. Perfectionists, for example. Perfectionists can often become crippled with anxiety. With perfectionists, they'll show you the things that they do well, but what you won't see is the crippling anxiety behind the scenes of what they don't do so well. To a perfectionist, essentially when they start to step out of their comfort zone, the inner parental voice says, hang on a second, wait a second. If you're not going to do it perfectly, you might fail. And if you fail, you're either perfect or you're terrible. Either good or bad. Black or white. See, that black and white thinking, all or nothing, it crops up in all sorts of situations, but it is at the heart of what keeps us stuck where we are. It'll get us to build on our existing strengths, but it'll keep us going around in circles when it comes to our area of weaknesses. They're the areas that needs to change if we want to get to where we want to be. Let's say, for example, that domestic cleaning, keeping your sort of home and environment clean, is something that is on your inner child list of cans. That's something you feel confident with. So you're walking past a piece of rubbish, you're on the way out to the bin anyway, you pick it up, maybe 1 or 2 more pieces, you grab it and you walk out the bin, you put it in the bin, no problem, right? However, if being domestically clean is not something on your inner child list of cans, if that's not something you feel confident with, then what happens? You walk past, you see 1 or 2 pieces of rubbish on the ground, you think, oh geez, I should pick that up, but suddenly, then you become aware of all the other rubbish all around you everywhere, and you think, well, there's no point in picking that up because then I'd have to clean everything, okay? All or nothing starting to kick in. And so you think, you know what, I'll leave it until I have time to do it all. And so then you leave it, the mess piles up, and eventually then you get around to doing the big spring clean, right? You clean everything up and you feel a sense of relief. You feel that tribal sense of, yeah, everything is good, a sense of detoxification, I guess, a sense of everything is okay. But then after a few days, the mess starts to come back again. You think, oh my God, geez, it just never stops. Because if that particular task is not on your inner child's list of cans, if that's not something factored into your identity that you feel confident with, then black and white thinking is still getting in the way. All or nothing at all. And so When you see a little bit, you think, well, no, there's no point doing a little bit. I have to wait until I go all in, but then I go all in, then it doesn't work all, and so then I fail, then I can't do it. And so you get caught up in this vicious cycle of black and white thinking. Let's say, for example, your goal was to lose weight. Well, if you want to be a yo-yo dieter, then think like a yo-yo dieter. But if you take someone who's not a yo-yo dieter and not someone who's sort of borderline eating disorder level of perfectionistic when it comes to their diet, just a relatively ordinary, everyday, healthy eating person, I mean, if they overindulge a little bit in their dessert, it's not like they think, oh, damn it, I've blown the diet. Oh, well, I'm off the wagon now. I might as well wait until the next time that I'm ready to do it. Because when that thing is on their inner child's list of cans, when that part of them is confident in their identity, then the black and white thinking doesn't get in the way. They don't process things in black and white, all or nothing. They process things in all the different shades of grey and all the colours in between. So I'd like you to have a think about the following question. When it comes to dissolving or breaking down the black and white thinking that would ordinarily get in the way, what specifically do you say to yourself? In that self-communication process, what specifically do you see? And what specifically do you tell yourself in order to be able to break down and dissolve the black and white thinking? I think the answer will surprise you because it's just two little words which, with repetition, despite being very simple, have an enormously powerful effect, especially when we communicate them to ourselves.
The common thread you'll find at the heart of our problems is some kind of black and white thinking, which is driven by the inner, more primitive parts of the brain. Black and white thinking manifests as beliefs centered around things being either all good or all bad. When it comes to our identity, black and white thinking manifests as beliefs around all or nothing at all, which keeps the fixed mindset in place. The mistake that people with a fixed mindset make is to try to change all at once by going on some kind of program. It's important to remember, however, that regression is part of progression. So it's in knowing how to bounce back once we fall down that exercises the more advanced layers of the brain to mature our thinking into a growth mindset. The problem is that the world around us will inevitably reinforce beliefs around black and white thinking to stimulate emotional reactions to feel connected by taking a side. Once you become aware of the all or nothing beliefs at the heart of the problems you're stuck on, the goal becomes knowing how to communicate with yourself in a way which breaks down the black and white thinking. In the following lessons, Stuart will explain how to do just that.